If you really want to get a handle on the sprawling archipelago of Indonesia, you've got to understand its relationship with the sea. I mean, this isn't just a country made of islands. It's a nation literally forged by waves, by trade winds, and most importantly, by the ambitions of some incredible maritime empires whose legacies still echo today. Okay, let's dive in and see how these ancient kingdoms really shaped the Indonesia we know.
So where does this all start? Well, we have to go back, way back. Thousands of years ago, the ancestors of today's Indonesians, the Austronesian people, were absolute masters of the sea. Just look at this map. We're talking about navigating huge stretches of open ocean, all the way from Madagascar to Easter Island, in these amazing outrigger canoes called perahu. So this deep, deep connection to the sea, it's not just ancient history, it's the very bedrock of Indonesian identity.
And there's a perfect phrase that captures this: Dana Air. Now, this doesn't just mean homeland. It literally translates to land and sea. It's this incredibly powerful idea that the water between the thousands of islands doesn't separate them. No, it binds them together into one single territory. You've got to remember this idea because it's absolutely key to everything that's about to follow.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to see how this nation was forged by the sea, and we'll check out its first major maritime powers. Then, we'll look at a powerful oath that dreamed of a united archipelago, like centuries ago. We'll watch a massive shift in the religious landscape, and finally, we'll connect all those dots to the Indonesia of today.
Okay, so our story really gets going with two foundational kingdoms. They rose up around the 7th and 8th centuries, and believe me, each one left a huge mark on the region.
First up, we've got the mighty Srivijaya kingdom, based out of Sumatra. And their genius? Look at this map. They controlled the Malacca and Sunda Straits. Think of these as the absolute superhighways for all maritime trade flowing between India and China. If you controlled those straits, you controlled the money. And that's exactly what they did, becoming the first great sea power in the area.
Srivijaya was what you'd call a classic thalassocracy. So what's that? It means an empire of the sea. See, their power didn't come from conquering huge swaths of land inland. Nope. It was more like a confederation of powerful port cities, a network whose wealth and influence came directly from controlling all that trade on the water.
And here's the thing you really have to get about Srivijaya. It was a powerhouse in two ways. On one hand, commercially, they completely dominated the super lucrative spice route. But on the other, they were also a major center for Mahayana Buddhism. They had these famous monasteries that drew in scholars and pilgrims from all over Asia, from China, from India. It was this incredible hub of commerce and culture.
All right, now let's hop over to the island of Java. Another kingdom, called Mataram, was building its own legacy, and man, is it spectacular. They built two of the most jaw-dropping religious sites on the planet: Borobudur, the world's largest Buddhist temple, and Prambanan, a massive, absolutely stunning Hindu temple complex.
But here's what's truly mind-blowing. It wasn't a case of one religion kicking out another one. As you can see from this table, they built Hindu and Buddhist temples right next to each other. I mean, literally, sometimes just a few hundred meters apart. This just screams religious harmony. It was an era where different faiths coexisted, even symbolized by marriages between Hindu kings and Buddhist princesses in the Mataram court. Pretty amazing, right?
So, with these incredible foundations laid by Srivijaya and Mataram, a new power was about to emerge. And this one had an even bigger, bolder ambition: to unite the entire archipelago under one flag.
And that was the Majapahit Empire. Based in East Java, this Hindu-Buddhist kingdom is pretty much considered the absolute peak of pre-Islamic power in Indonesia. People often look back on it as a true golden age in the nation's history. Its reach was going to be bigger than anything that came before it.
The driving force, the man with the plan, was its legendary prime minister, Gajah Mada. And he made this famous public vow called the Palapa Oath. He swore he wouldn't rest, wouldn't enjoy any of life's pleasures until he had united the entire archipelago, a realm he called Nusantara. What a vision.
But you know how history goes. Just as Majapahit is at its absolute peak, the winds of change start to blow. A new current began sweeping across the archipelago, and it was about to change everything. So, as Muslim traders set up shop and established powerful port cities, Islam started spreading like wildfire. And along the northern coast of Java, a new power, the Islamic Sultanate of Demak, started rising up. Well, this was a direct challenge to the inland Hindu-Buddhist Majapahit, and the whole balance of power in the region started to tip dramatically.
As Majapahit began to collapse under all this pressure, something really interesting happened. To preserve their culture and, well, to survive, a huge number of Majapahit's elite, the courtiers, the priests, the artists, even the royals, they fled east to the next island over, Bali. They basically packed up their entire Hindu-Javanese culture and transplanted it. And that is the key to understanding why Bali, to this very day, is this vibrant Hindu-majority island in the middle of a Muslim-majority nation.
Okay, so this is where it all comes together. We've been talking about ancient history, but these aren't just old stories. The legacies of Srivijaya, Mataram, and Majapahit are deeply woven into the DNA of modern Indonesia. Let's connect the dots.
Hey, remember Gajah Mada's oath from the 14th century? That powerful vision of a united Nusantara? Well, it didn't just die out with the Majapahit Empire. It kind of went dormant, like a seed, just waiting to be rediscovered centuries later in a whole new context.
And bam! Here's the moment it all comes roaring back. In 1928, young Indonesian nationalists came together and made what's known as the Youth Pledge. They declared one motherland, Tanah Air, our land and sea concept, one nation and one language. They were directly tapping into the spirit of Gajah Mada's United Nusantara to help build a modern, independent Indonesia.
The founders of the Republic of Indonesia, especially the first president, Sukarno, were brilliant. They looked back at Majapahit and saw a blueprint. They used its legacy to argue that a united Indonesia wasn't some new idea, but the rightful heir to a great, ancient, and homegrown empire. Majapahit became this incredible source of national pride.
And the connection, it goes even deeper. It's literally written into the country's DNA. Indonesia's national motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which means unity in diversity, is a direct quote from an old poem written during Majapahit's golden age. So the country's whole philosophy of making one nation from all these different cultures comes right out of that era.
Which brings us right back to those incredible temples. Today, Borobudur and Prambanan, they aren't just ancient ruins or tourist spots. They are powerful, living symbols of Indonesia's long history of religious harmony, a legacy from the Mataram kingdom that is a huge source of pride and a model for peace. So, from the idea of Tanah Air to the vision of Nusantara, the echoes of these great maritime empires are absolutely everywhere. They're a constant reminder that Indonesia's identity has always been about its unique ability to unite so many different peoples across a vast sea. The big question for the 21st century is, how will these powerful currents from the past continue to shape its journey forward?